guys, Molly Galbraith here with weighttraining.com, and today I'm going to walk you through one of the more popular workouts on the website. It's the Beyonce workout. It's for intermediates, for people that want to lose body fat, get stronger, add some muscle, tone up, and there's 3 separate workouts, and today I'm going to walk you through workout number 1. Now, this workout typically starts with some cardio, and this particular day it starts out with treadmill jogging. If you know anything about me, you'll know treadmill jogging is actually not one of my favorite things for people to do. I'd much rather someone walk outside. If you are going to walk on a treadmill, maybe put a weight vest on and walk, or kind of bring up the incline 5 or 10% and walk for 30 minutes. I'd much rather you do that than jogging. That's just my personal preference for my clients. So you're supposed to do that for 30 minutes in the workout. You're welcome to substitute the incline walking or the walking with the weight vest if you'd like. And then the first exercise in the program is an alternating dumbbell curl. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you guys. Pick up some weights that you think you could do for the prescribed number of sets and reps. Dumbbell curls, pretty basic. A couple things that I would tell you to do would be to brace your core. A lot of times when you see people do curls, they'll be doing this, or getting kind of a lot of body English going. They'll be kind of flaring their ribs, hanging on their low back. What I like to see is ribs down, nice tight core, athletic stance. This is an alternating curl, so you'll be doing one at a time. Just make sure, like I said, you keep those ribs down, keep that core brace nice and tight. The next movement is a seated bent over tricep extension. That's also not something that I normally do with my clients. In the position that you're not able to use a lot of weight. I like to, once my clients are intermediate, load them up a little bit heavier. So I would probably do a standing overhead tricep extension with them, kind of more in this position. Again, you want to keep the ribs down and the core brace nice and tight. Bring the arms back behind the head, just like that, and then extend the triceps. And again, this is going to be extra challenging. If you're going to be standing, you're going to be forced to keep your ribs down and brace your core, so you're getting a little bit more out of the exercise. The next movement is a dumbbell bench press. This is one of my favorites, definitely a staple for clients who are wanting to get stronger once they're prepared to do the movement. I'm going to demonstrate here. You're going to pick up some dumbbells. When you lay back on the bench, again, you want to brace your core. You don't want to hyperextend and arch too much. You want the ribs down, glutes tight, abs tight. You're going to drag your feet through the floor. I typically prefer to do this with more of a neutral grip. It's a little bit easier on the shoulders. If you're not comfortable with a straight neutral grip, you can rotate your hands about 30 to 45 degrees. So I'll demonstrate both. So the neutral grip is here. My glutes are tight, my abs are tight, and my ribs are down. The core is braced. This is the neutral grip. And then if you want to do like a 45 degree, you can do that as well. When you put the dumbbells down, make sure you drop them safely and don't hit anyone around you. The next movement is a dumbbell lunge. Again, because this is for an intermediate lifter, I'd be comfortable with them doing a lunge and loading it up a little bit. You can hold dumbbell on one side, dumbbell on both hands. You can hold the dumbbell in the goblet position, whatever you'd like. Make sure that when you're lunging, that when you lunge forward, that your knee is at about a 90-degree angle, that this back leg is in line with your hip, and that everything stays nice and tight in your core. You'll notice the theme, I'm always talking about braced core, ribs down. That's really, really important. I'm going to hold one dumbbell, I'm going to hold it in the same leg as my front leg going forward, and just like that. That's how I would do the dumbbell lunge. The next movement is actually a Bosu ball squat. I tend to not put my clients on Bosu balls for movements like that. I'd much rather have them be on the ground and be stable and be able to load up the weight a little bit heavier once they're proficient in the movement. So what I would have a client do instead of a Bosu ball squat would be a goblet squat. Again, you can use a dumbbell or a kettlebell. This is only a 15-pound dumbbell, which if you're just starting out, that's appropriate, but once you get stronger, it's definitely good to load these up really heavy. So anyway, this is how I would do the goblet squat. Feet a little wider than shoulder width apart, toes turned out somewhere between 15 and 30 degrees. I'm going to drive my knees out. I'm going to brace my core first, drive my knees out, sit back, head in a nice neutral position, just like that. Control it on the way down, don't bounce, come up, bring your hips all the way through, and squeeze your glutes at the top. So that is the movement that I would substitute for a Bosu ball squat. The last exercise is a dumbbell front raise. Okay, so you stand here just like this. Nice athletic position. I tend to do these alternating, just like this. And again, similar to the curl that I showed you earlier, you don't want to be swinging your body and flaring your rib cage. You want ribs down, braced core, keep everything nice and tight. Just like that. And if those bother your shoulders for any reason, some people have some pain with those, definitely don't do them. This is section 2 of workout 3 of the Beyonce workout plan. In section 1, I'll walk you through some of the exercises that we do in our dynamic warm-up that I do myself and that I teach my clients. Section 2 is a little bit more of a glutes and core emphasis. We'll be walking you through 4 exercises: the cook hip lift, the plank, the side plank, and the Swiss ball jackknife. Cook hip lift is a fantastic exercise, one of my favorites. You're going to be on your back in the good bridge position. You're actually going to take one knee, and you're not pulling it to your chest. You're just kind of bringing it up like this. This is going to help block lumbar hyperextension and help you stabilize. And you're going to drive through your heel and squeeze your glute at the top. Again, you want to keep your core braced and tight, and squeeze your glute as you drive through your heel. The next exercise is a plank. Most of you guys are probably pretty familiar with planks, but I can guarantee that a lot of people are doing them incorrectly. It's really hard to feel when you're in the right position, so it might be a good idea to have a friend or a trainer or someone put a PVC pipe on your back and make sure that it's contacting 3 different points: the top of your tailbone, your upper back, and the back of your head. You're going to be on your forearms and toes. You want your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. Whenever you start to lose your form on the plank, in order to rest, once you put your knees down instead of your hips down, that'll prevent lumbar hyperextension. And whenever you've rested and been able to reset, you can pop back up in the plank. So, on your forearms, nice neutral spine, glutes tight, abs tight. Whenever it comes time to rest, you put your knees down, take a little break, and pop right back up. Now the next movement is a side plank. Again, you want to make sure that you're nice and neutral, that your hips are pulled all the way through. People have a tendency to kind of sag their hips and be in like a V position if you're viewing them from the top. So make sure you get your hips all the way through. You can stack your feet on top of each other, or you can stagger them. I tend to prefer to stagger. And you want your elbow directly underneath your shoulder. You can take a little bit of playing around to make sure that you're in the right position. You're going to stay nice and tight. The neutral spine, hips all the way through. And again, whenever you're ready to rest, just kind of sit back down on this side of your hip and then pop back up. And the last exercise is a Swiss ball jackknife. It's a little bit more challenging. A lot of people, when they do jackknives and they bring their knees to their chest, they're so concerned about bringing their knees all the way to their chest, and they actually end up flexing their lumbar spine. In this position, the Swiss ball jackknife is actually a hip flexion with neutral spine exercise, which means you're flexing your hip while maintaining a neutral spine. That's what makes it so hard. So this one can also be a little bit tricky. It might be kind of interesting getting into position. I tend to put my knees on the ball and then walk myself out. Okay, so nice neutral spine here. Bring the knees up, maintaining neutral spine. You'll notice I'm not doing this, okay? Maintaining neutral spine while bringing my knees up. Again, you don't want to sacrifice form for range of motion. So those are the 4 exercises in section 2 of workout 3, the Beyonce workout plan. I hope you enjoyed it. What I will tell you about workout number 3 is it includes a whole lot of yoga exercises. To be totally honest, I haven't done a lot of yoga in my day. It seems like the purpose of this workout is some strengthening, but also a lot of stretching. So what I'm going to do instead of the yoga poses, since I wouldn't feel comfortable explaining to you how to do them since I haven't mastered them myself, so I'm going to take you through some of the basic dynamic warm-up exercises that I do for myself to warm up, and also that I do with my clients. So the first exercise in section 1 of the Beyonce workout plan is the glute kickback. As I talked about previously, we are really cautious about keeping a neutral spine and not hyperextending. In the glute kickback, people tend to do that, so I'm going to substitute and show you a bird dog instead. The bird dogs are an exercise that we do with our clients all the time. They're great for core stability and great for just kind of improving your client's coordination or your coordination. So you're going to start out on all fours with your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. People have a tendency to spread out really wide in this position because they tend to have poor core stability. So you're going to want to start in this position. You're going to lift your opposite arm and opposite leg while keeping your spine as neutral as possible. A lot of times people have a tendency to thrust their leg up in the air, and again, that's where you get that lumbar hyperextension that you don't want. So make sure that you push your foot back and not up towards the ceiling, and don't let your foot go any higher than your glute. So maintain a totally neutral spine. Stay as still as possible. Think about trying to balance a glass of water back there. That's the proper way to execute a bird dog. Now the next several exercises are the yoga exercises. There's Warrior 1, Warrior 2, Warrior 3, Half Moon, Eagle, Camel, and Prone Cobra. Like I discussed, I'm not super comfortable. I haven't mastered those exercises, so I'm not going to take you guys through them. I'm going to take you through some of the exercises that we do with our clients and that I do myself. Workout number 3 prescribes 30 seconds of each of those exercises, so I'm going to walk you through exactly how we do them. Number 1 is an inchworm. This one's really, really popular. We tend to call it a walkout, and we perform it a little bit differently. So we start with our feet a little bit wider. Most people have what they feel like are tight hamstrings. Whether their hamstrings are actually tight is a whole other story, but they have a hard time pushing back into their hips and bending over to touch the ground. So what we have a tendency to do is have them get a little bit wider, push back into their hips, walk their hands out to a push-up position, and at this point they can either walk their feet up to their hands, or they can walk their hands back up to their feet. That's how we perform that exercise. Number 2 is a yoga push-up, and basically it's a push-up into a downward dog position. You're going to start, when you do the push-up, you want to make sure that your core is really tight, ribs are down, you have a nice neutral spine, you're not flaring your elbows. So that's how I perform that exercise. The next one is called a Spider-Man lunge, or we just call it Spider-Man. You're going to start out in a push-up position. If you're more proficient, you can start out in a push-up position and swing your legs up by your hands. If you're more of a beginner, you'll want to start with your back knee on the ground. So back knee on the ground, this leg out past your shoulder a little bit. Your hands are going to go right down by your foot. You're going to rock forward, squeeze this back glute, help open up this hip. You'll rock out of this position and rock back into it. You're going to perform this on both sides. Like I said, if you're a little bit more advanced, you can do it from a push-up position and swing that leg up there, push through the hip, and switch. And that is a Spider-Man lunge. The next exercise that we would do would be a lateral lunge. So you'd start with your feet about hip-width apart. You're going to step one foot out, kind of catch yourself, really push back into this hip. You're trying to mobilize your adductor on this side and your glute med on this side. So you're going to step to the side, catch yourself, push back into your hip, and come up. This is also called a Cossack squat. For different exercises have multiple names. The next exercise that I'm going to show you guys is a thoracic rotation. We call this quadruped extension rotation, and it's pretty much the same thing. You're going to be on all fours. Your hand is going to be by your ear, and you're going to lock your core down. You're going to take your elbow towards your opposite knee, and then you're going to open it towards the ceiling and look at your elbow. This is great for thoracic or upper back mobility, and also core stability. So you can see I'm locking all this down. Take this elbow towards my opposite knee. Open up and look towards that elbow. And again, that will be performed on both sides. The next exercise is one of my favorites, and it's actually called a band pull apart, or a resistance band pull apart. If you're newer to this exercise, you might only want to use one of the strands. If you're a little bit stronger, you could use both. We tend to do it with a palm up grip. It's easier for people to not over-engage their upper traps when they do it, so we tend to do a palm up or underhand grip. And people perform this differently. Some people lock their elbows in by their sides and do more of what's called a no money drill. I tend to put my hands out a little bit wider and squeeze my back together. When you're doing this, you want to be sure, again, to keep the ribs down and not hyperextend your lumbar spine. You're going to be pulling with your back muscles. The last exercise in section 1 is a glute bridge march. Many of you guys are probably familiar with the glute bridge. The march adds a little something extra. You're gonna lay on your back with your feet about shoulder width apart, ribs down, or braced as if someone's gonna punch you. You're gonna drive, and actually for this one, move your feet a little bit closer together, I'm sorry. You're gonna drive through your heels, come up to the top, and you're just gonna lift one leg, and you can lift your leg straight up, or you can march it towards you, whichever one you're comfortable with. You want to try to keep your pelvis as steady as you can and not be rocking all over the place as you alternate legs, just like that. And that is a lot of the stuff that we do in our dynamic warm-up, and that's section 1, workout number 3, the Beyonce workout plan.